There are doors of perception everywhere, and we are constantly walking through them. And what I mean by that is a moment where all of a sudden we perceive everything differently. Some of these doors are really big and show up in our lives over and over again. Others are tiny, and we have to learn how to see them and how to step through them. I had an experience this morning of one of these more subtle doors opening. I went out for breakfast and I walked up to the counter, I ordered my food, all was normal. I took my bacon and eggs and greens and went over to the table and sat down and actually opened up the Gene Keys book and started reading it. And as I was reading it, all of a sudden, I looked around and I was overtaken by emotion. There was a woman that was sitting in the window and the light was coming right onto her face and she just looked so peaceful, and I could see below her regular appearance. I could feel what she was dealing with in her life and where she had been. And I could feel the unity that connected everything, and it just overtook me. And what I realized is that the Gene Keys open a permanent portal to be able to see truth. We have these temporary portals to truth. For example, with plant medicine, you hear time and again that what I felt in ceremony felt more real than what I see walking around in the outer world. But those portals, for most people, don't stay open. However, doing the deep work that the Gene Keys requires creates an ability to open portals to a hidden world. And this world, beneath what is actually there, is something alive. There's something there that is begging to be noticed. And that's why there are masters, or have been masters across the ages, that when we get into their presence and they see us, all of a sudden we see ourselves for the first time. And then we start to notice this hidden world. To walk through the portal, we need to do three things. Number one is we need to see and know what we really are. Which is not my body, which is not me as a dad, which is not me as a teacher. What I really am is an eternal presence. What I really am is the consciousness that is in the center of you. And I come and I go, and you come and you go, but ultimately that consciousness, that animating principle, is just using the form in order to evolve, in order to shift. And so if we can detach from the form and instead know what we really and truly are, then this portal slowly begins to open to us. Next, we've got to understand all is connected. Now, when I say understand, this isn't a logical understanding. It's something that's felt in the body. And we need to know this because this field, this hidden world, only shows up when you are in communion with your surroundings. When you can learn to merge, when you can let go of yourself and your own ego and everything that it needs and all the desires. We have to bypass that mental body and feel this in the core of our being, in our belly. And then finally, we have to know the universe is benevolent. I'm sure I spelled that wrong, but it's okay. So if we are running around constantly in a fear state, there's no way that I'm going to be able to see that all is connected because I'm so worried about protecting myself. There's no way that I'm going to be able to actually see what I am because I'm so attached to protecting what I am not. And we identify with what we are not, because if it goes away, then what are we? We're worried that we lose our sense of self, that will disappear, that will slip into non-existence. And that's why we hold on to so many of these stories. It's why we hold on to time, our past, and the projections that we have about our future. If you can do these things, you will have this experience that I had this morning. And it comes and it goes. And I know I said it's a permanent opening, and it is eventually, but it, like everything, starts with glimpses. There's a quote that I love that comes from the Tao Te Ching. So if you've never read the Tao Te Ching, you definitely should. It is by Lao Tzu, and he says, "Let there be another state so near. People hear its dogs and chickens, but live out their lives without making a visit." This is exactly what I'm talking about. We're all walking around in this world like zombies, trying to do the best we can for ourselves, not realizing that there is a whole other hidden world that is so much more fun, that is full of magic, that yes, you need to sacrifice for. Primarily, you need to sacrifice your ego, sacrifice yourself. But we know that the universe is benevolent, so I can let go, I can surrender and know that all is going to be well. In fact, it's going to be so much better than you think it's going to be. So why then are we blind? Why doesn't everybody have access to seeing this world? Number one is a quote that I hear very often. And when I hear this, I know that a person is just not getting it. They're not understanding. And it's okay to be in this place. If this is you, we oftentimes start here. I'm not a group person. That's the first reason you're not going to be able to see this hidden world. Because this hidden world, there is only the group. There is only the collective. The way that you see the truth, what you see what people really are, is to realize that I am the collective because of that same animating principle of consciousness at the core of us. So to say I am not a group person is to say you are not part of the collective. Everything is deeply interconnected. And this isn't some woo-woo thing. The things that I do in my life directly impact my family. And then the way that that energy impacts them directly impacts the people in their bubble and the next bubble and the next bubble, and keep going out. It never stops. The actions that I take in the environment directly impact every other person or being on earth. So to say I'm not a group person is saying that I am not willing to engage in the unity of all things. And you are doing yourself such a disservice, because it is interacting in relationship, interacting in the world. That's how we learn these things. I understand how hard it is to be in a group. I understand that other people's behavior can be difficult sometimes, but it's only difficult if you are not in this hidden world. It's only difficult if you're not able to see what is really and truly alive in that person, which is always love. They're either sharing love or asking for love. The second thing is time has us stuck, which is interesting, right? Because we think of time as being the thing that opens it up, because then we have a past and we have a future, and we don't have only what is now. Especially if we're suffering, if we have only what is now, what the heck are we here for? I get it. But ultimately, time is what has us identifying with our past. And a lot of times our past has had difficulties. And we think that those difficulties are there to chop us down. In reality, those difficulties are there to open us up to this hidden world, but we identify with the difficulty. And when we do that, we predict that the same things that happen in our past are going to happen in our future. And that is true if and only if you do not change. If you are willing to respond differently, then the same input is going to lead to a different output. The future keeps us stuck because we're constantly thinking it's going to be better if. And that if is the very thing that keeps you stuck. It's not going to be better if you have X, Y, and Z. The only way it gets better is if you are willing to go within, be present, stay here now, and deal with the things that come up in you. When we learn to be in the ever-present now, then I get to see what is really happening. I get to hear what people are really saying. Because in the now, I am allowing consciousness to play through me. Not trying to control the direction that I'm going. I'm not trying to control what other people are saying. I'm not trying to control anything. I'm just here, open, listening, not just with my ears, with my heart, with my belly, with my whole body. Which brings me to the third thing. We're not getting to this hidden world because we are not listening. You're hearing, you're not listening. And oftentimes what you're hearing is the shadow consciousness at work. Because the collective, as it stands right now, is in that shadow consciousness. And I hear you, if that's the case, I don't want to be a group person. I don't want to be of the shadow consciousness. Look, there are little lighthouses all in the collective that are helping people break out of their lower frequencies. For every person that gets into the gift, we can pull 100 people out of the shadow. For every person that gets into the city, we can pull 10 people out of the gift and up with us. I just randomly picked those numbers. You get the point. It's by staying plugged in that we raise the frequency of the collective. Our job is to create heaven on earth, not to run away to some other planet or to be some other being. We are one, so we all do that together or none of us do it. We hear the shadow frequency, which is there's not enough. You need to protect yourself. You need to make sure you have insurance, which this is not legal advice. All of these stories that tell us that you need to be in competition. If you want to be successful, you need to have stuff. You need to look a certain way. All of this nonsense that in reality, we're choosing to hear instead of listening to all of the wisdom that has come for thousands of years from the East and from the West. And we are in a time of synthesis. We're in a time where those teachings are coming together, where we can see the through line of what's happening behind them, that it's all the same core truth and principle. And we can listen to that, or we can hear the news. We can see the despair. We can believe that what's happening right now is how it's going to be forever. Or we can listen to the hidden world. And we can know the real capacity and the real power that we have. We're coming into a time where there's going to be a split. If you know your history, I guess, or sociology maybe, you know that there has been these times before. We talk about the split between Neanderthal and Homo sapien. And we are coming into another split. And in the old world, It is a paradigm of protection. I need to protect myself. I need to protect my tribe. I need to protect the people I care about. And that will come at the cost of the whole, because I got to make sure my people are safe. Then that leads to fighting. In the old world, we try and protect everything. Inevitably, somebody oversteps that boundary and we get into a fight. We forget about love. We instead choose to see separation. We think that we need to knock down another to make sure that we have what we need to have. And if we are all one, then a fight is harming myself just as it's harming another. And then finally, that leads to conquer. After we fight, what we're really shooting for here is conquering as much as humanly possible. It's greed. I want to conquer life. I want to conquer that land. I want to conquer, you name it. But it's all about how can I stand on top of the mountain in pride, looking at all the land that I own. And then there's the new world, where instead of walking around protected, we walk around open. When you fully and completely connect to everything happening around you, when you give yourself over to the whole, and you totally let your defenses down, that is the only time that you are truly invincible. You can no longer be hurt. So we go from protection to this state of openness. We go from fighting to serving. Instead of how can I protect what I have and get into a battle over it, it's how can I take what I have and give it to the world? How can I use these gifts that have been given to me and serve the whole? And instead of conquer, we've got kindness. We've got a sense that there's enough for all of us that we can share, that I can go out of my way to be there for you, to do something for you. The portal to this new world has never been more open. Now is the time that you can step through. And there will be a too late. There will be a time, and it's coming soon, where this split between old world and new world, between Neanderthal and Homo sapien, this time it's between Homo sapien and a new species. And it's coming. So do the work. I want to see you there. All right, thank you for being here. Until next time.